Dynamic entry. Welcome back to the channel, guys, and today I'm going to be giving you my thoughts and reviewing the controversial Last of Us Season 2. Now, I say controversial because apparently everybody online hated this season. They hated everything about it. They want them to just stop, recast everybody, give the rights back to Marvel, all that good stuff there. I'm not saying they're wrong, because some of these videos and people online do have valid points. Points were made from both sides, but for me, I want to give a more positive outlook on it and discuss how I felt about the series, watching it, the season at least. Because I think it's really easy to just shit on it and be like, hey, this show fucking sucks, whatever, and then get views and people agreeing with you, yada yada. But I don't really want to do that all the way here. So if you're looking for a video that's going to completely shit on it and you're going to get your rocks off on it, like, yeah, I fucking hate everything about this, this is not going to be the video for you. I'm going to give a more positive outlook on it because I think I am in the minority of people who did enjoy this. And as, you know, the story of Last of Us 2 goes, I am also in the minority of it. So before we go any further, I want to let you know now that there will be spoilers for Last of Us Season 2, but also I will go into the game spoilers. So if you've not played Last of Us Season 2 and you have no idea what the story's about from now on, do not watch this. But if you don't care about spoilers, then feel free to keep on watching. So a second ago, I said I was in the minority of people who actually do enjoy the story of Last of Us 2. If you didn't know, from when the game came out, Part 2, people initially hated it because of the main thing, Joel dying. And I understand, he's a very fun character. People love him. He's beloved amongst the community. But for me, I knew that he had to go. It was just one of those things, a natural progression of the story. You know, he's not a great person at the end of the day, and we see that in the show. And if you play the game, he struggles with it and tries to, you know, keep his shame to himself and the things that he's not proud of. So from this happening, the way it happens, it's shitty. Obviously, you are pissed off about it. But me knowing that we need to see Ellie grow up and do her stuff on her own, I wasn't super mad about that. I got over that pretty quickly. And then going along from that, we have Ellie being the main character in Part 2, which people hate women protagonists for whatever reason because they hate themselves. And then we get introduced to another antagonist, whatever you want to call her, morally gray, Abby, who is another woman. Two women for the price of one. We get them to be the mainstay characters in the game. So people were just not happy about that at all. They're like, why are we playing with these ladies, man? We need to see some men. Some men need to be handling balls and guns and all this stuff. So going into this season 2 of the show, I knew that it was starting off like 3 steps behind, because you have to let people know, hey, Joel's dying and it's not going to be about him anymore. Ellie needs to take the stand. So the writing was on the walls. I knew people would not like this because of that. And some people solely because of that. They already don't like Bella Ramsey because they feel like she's not hot enough for the role of Ellie, which is weird because Ellie is 15 in the show. So, you know, get over that. As long as she's a good actress, then it shouldn't matter, which she is a good actress. She's a very good actress. But yeah, that's just a whole different argument altogether, because people just right away, those 2 points, they won't see past it. But moving past that, there are valid critiques within the show, mainly being things that they, took out, or they didn't explain, or how some situations were handled. It was completely different from the game at some points. My biggest issues were pacing, which altogether is just being handled so weirdly, the way that they're splitting up the seasons. I think after the first season, they were like, oh man, this is a cash cow, we need to milk this, and that's why they split it up in such a way to where we get part 1 is Ellie's story, part 2, Abby's story, part 3 will be the ending, hopefully, if they don't split it up again. So the way they're choosing to tell the story is just odd to me, because if you play the game, you jump back and forth between Ellie and Abby, and then you meet up in the middle with the climax of like the auditorium scene where, old boy gets his head popped off. And I know that writing for TV is different than writing for, a video game or for a book, whatever. They can move at their own pace. They have a lot more time to get things done than a TV show does. But I think it would have benefited them if they would have went the way of just the game back and forth between Ellie and Abby, instead of having to split up one season Abby, one season Ellie. That's going to be a little weird. But again, going into it, we knew that it was going to be split up, because this was like 2 years ago they announced, hey, they're going to be splitting up the season. So I was like, okay, I know that where it could possibly end, and I know people will be upset because we got the entire story of Last of Us in one season last season. And then another critique I see, which is I think is valid as well, which is another one of my complaints, is the way that Ellie is handled in the show. And I don't think it's Bella Ramsey's fault. I think she's playing it fine. I think it's the way that they wrote her in the show. She's a lot more innocent. She's more worried about, things around her, how people feel, killing people of the wolf, people of the scars, whatever. She's feeling more innocent and more like meekish, as opposed to in the game where Ellie is just on a rampage. She's very violent in nature, and Joel dying is like the catalyst to make it even, more than what it was. Because we get glimpses of it in the first Last of Us game, which they didn't touch too much upon on the first season either. They wrote her kind of the same way. But second game, Ellie, she's just on a rampage. She has one vision in mind, that is to kill whoever was involved with the killing of Joel. The only time I see the game version of Ellie come to life in the show is the Nora scene, the dying of Nora. You see it click in her mind like, oh, I know why Joel did this to you. I don't care. I'm going to kill you. That was like perfect. But her going back and then crying to Dina about, oh, I did that. I can't believe I killed that person. That was the biggest thing where I was like, okay, this is not the Ellie that I'm used to. But again, I don't think it's Bella's fault. I think it's the way they're writing her. They want her to be more empathetic, and you want to sympathize with her and her situation, which I think you could do that in the game, but also it lets you know, like, hey, everyone's not perfect. It's just like, hey, this person's just a shitty person, and that's what it is. We got to deal with it. So for me, those were like the biggest critiques. The pacing and the way that Ellie is characterized in the show. Oh, and also the island scene, with the Seraphite Island, and how they capture Ellie for a second and they just let her go. That's a little weird. In the game, it's completely different, so that's another, like, weird spot. Like, I understand that criticism. Last episode was a mess. So what I did like about the show, Isabella Merced as Dina. She is a queen. Wow, queen, you're so beautiful. And she is. And she's very charismatic, and I liked her performance a lot. It does suck having somebody in the secondary character be more charismatic than your main protagonist, but I think that's works in a way. Like, they bounce off each other very well. But I can't see people saying like, oh, she should have been Ellie, she's way more charismatic. But that's just how she was written in the show. Also, fun little aside here, I think it's funny that people were fan casting Kaylee Spaney as Ellie after they'd seen Civil War and Alien Romulus, and they were in Alien Romulus together, Isabella Merced and Kaylee Spaney, so it would have been funny to see them be together in this show again together. Pretty silly, but yeah, she was great. Isabella Merced as Dina, love her a lot. And then the scenes that they nailed from the game that just feel like ripped from the game, like the Joel episode with Joel and Ellie going on like her birthday trips. I love the way they handled that, like splitting it up by birthday and showing the growth of Ellie and like their relationship, their dynamic changing as she became older, and Joel was just trying to be like a dad and trying to be close to her. Very, very thoughtful. But yeah, the whole like museum scene where he takes her in there and they're on the spaceship. Love that scene. Love the Nora death scene that felt like straight from the game too. So the scenes in which they, ripped straight from the game, they were really good. But some of the scenes where they went off and did their own thing, a little weird. Like the side story with old boy, what's his name? I don't know his name, but the guy he killed because he got bit, the husband of Catherine O'Hara in the show. That was a little weird. They feel like they tried to do like a Bob kind of story from last season where they're like, oh, let's expand upon a minor character and give them more of a story. But I don't think that it worked for them. It kind of missed the mark there. And the fact that they are in Seattle doing it, I think they did a really good job of capturing the feel of it, because playing the game, you're like, oh, damn, I'm like in Seattle right now. It's so big and huge and all these buildings are run down. It's like a much bigger location and more like condensed than it was when you're playing like in Colorado and Wyoming from the last game. So them being able to do it and bring it to life, I do commend them. The ocean scene, I remember specifically from the last episode where you're crossing the ocean to get to the museum or the aquarium. That felt like from the game. I remember that, like, it's burned into my mind. I jumped out of my boat and I like swam across to get to the aquarium, so that part was cool. And then the last scene we get where they open up and we see the Seahawks field, very cool. So I do think that they nailed the setting, like everything we see, very well. Jeffrey Wright, he's great. I want to see him do more stuff as Isaac. I want to see him go crazy because I do think he's like a really good actor. So I pretty much liked all the casting, even Jesse's actor. He was in Beef, Young Mazzino, I believe it's how it's pronounced. He was good too. So overall, casting choices, very great. Also, what's your name from Ted and Meet the Fockers?
Shut up, baby dick.
Her, she was in here too. Love her. So casting overall, great. Setting overall, great. Some scenes that were ripped from the game, very great as well. But yeah, overall, I just think that they chose a weird way to tell this part of the story, and the way that they're like the pace of it. Like I mentioned earlier, it's just ruined a lot of the story for me, and I think that's why a lot of people didn't like it as much as they liked the first season, because that was so like condensed down to one single story, and they were able to like do it all there and then. So I see why people felt the way they did about it, and overall how it felt kind of just mid overall. So I won't knock anybody for saying that they didn't like the season, but for me, I liked it more than I hated it. So for me, I'm just like on the opposite side of the fence, where everybody just seems to be like, oh my god, worst season ever, like why would they ever make this is terrible, it's all in the garbage. Like it's not. It's one of those things where it just has to suffer of being like the setup for the next season, like The Bear season 3, how it was just set up for this next season. That's just like one of those things where it's like, oh well, it's a part 1 basically of a part 2 story. It's just one of those things where I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna look past that for now. But yeah, some of the mistakes or some of the critiques that people had were pretty valid. And the next season, will people enjoy it as much? I don't know. If you didn't like this season, you might not like part 2 of this season either. If we don't have to wait like 3 years for it, I think they'll get away with it. But if we have to wait 3 years and get just Abby's story, people are just going to fall off completely from this. And they're going to be like, this is one of the greatest fumbles in history of television ever. Like HBO, you did it again. Game of Thrones was first. Now this one, you ruined it. It's going to suck. But if you stuck with this and you were like how I am, where I'm like, you know what, it's fine, I think you might enjoy season 2, because Abby is a cool character. People didn't like her in the game just because of what she did, and yeah, some of the things that she will do in the story, but overall, she's a badass. Like, you can't hate a badass character. The only thing that's going to suck is that the actress playing Abby is not as buff as Abby in the game, so we're not going to be seeing little one-hitter quitters on zombies, so a little unfortunate there. But the actress playing her, I was impressed with her. I think she plays a really good and menacing version of Abby. She's not as like, you know, as a presence that intimidates you this way. She's more of like she seems like she can just like cut you with a look, kind of violent to her. So I think the actress will be good. And then the surrounding cast around her that we've seen in the show, they seem decent. The only one that I really know outside of the main Abby girl is Danny Ramirez. He was in Captain America. He's playing Manny in the show. So seeing him would be good. I feel like he plays a really good like dick. But that's just funny about the story itself, is that you think they're all like dicks or whatever, but when you see them and their story unfold, you realize that everyone's doing something because of a reason. Like, it's not just like out of nowhere, like out of, you know, I'm gonna kill you. It's like, hey, we're doing this because of what you did to Abby's dad, and we all like support her. That's our system, our you know, our community that we have together. And they announced the person playing Lev a couple days ago, so that'll be exciting to see her. You know, because Lev is a cool character, and to see her get knocked out would be pretty funny. You know, the garage scene. So can't wait to see that. That'll be fun. But yeah, I think the way that season will end, most likely, is them meeting in the auditorium and fighting, and then it cuts to like Ellie on her little farmstead, whatever, before she goes back to California to finish the fight. So I think the California arc will be the final arc of the show, which will be season 3. So I think if it does that, it'll wrap up very nicely there. But we just got to get through the initial setup and stuff that we've seen already. We have to see these characters, you know, get explored, and so we can feel different ways about them when we see them, you know, pass away in the show, or, you know, get their wins on the show. We have to feel a certain way when we see these stories unfold. Just overall, if they get the messaging right, which I think they will, and, you know, the message being that two people set out for revenge. If eye for an eye, it's going to leave you blind. Like that whole thing, that these two characters who are just dead set on inflicting as much pain to each other back and forth as possible until the very end, when you realize, like, oh, Vinland Saga type story, I have no enemies. As long as that message gets portrayed, then I think we'll be okay. But we just got to get through all this setup, and then it'll be fine. And like I mentioned earlier, if you got through this season and you weren't like completely turned off by it and you want to continue the story, I think it will pay off in the end for you, because The Last of Us season 2, or part 2, sorry, of the story is a great story, and put together, it's just one of the best stories ever told within games. and I don't think anything will change my mind about that, even though people did feel a certain way about the second game. I think the way it's told is beautiful, and we might even get a third part, like a third game, which between the 2 seasons that we've gotten so far, maybe they've been working on it behind the scenes. So if we see a part 3 that expands upon the story, I hope that they just continue to raise the level and tell a very, meaningful story, because what we have so far, I love it. I think it's a wonderful story, but it's easy to mess up if they try to continue it, or even worse, if they continue the story of Last of Us but only in a TV show. That would be probably like my worst case scenario. Unless it's good, then we'll be okay. But even then, I wouldn't want that. I want to play the game first before I see it on the big screen. I just think overall it missed the mark. It's one of those things where like you're in the pursuit of perfection, but you fall just short. This is one of those moments where they fell short of perfection. The first season, perfect. Everyone loved it for the most part. This one is just, it missed it just slightly. So yeah, that's my overall thoughts on it. But there is still time to get back on track and reach that perfection that they're aiming for. I'm not giving up hope on it. I think it is going to be just as good as the first season. The next couple of seasons that we get, they have nowhere to go from here but up, hopefully. So as far as the rating goes for the season, let's say out of 10, I'm going to go 7 out of 10 just because it was, mid, but for me, a little bit on the more positive side of mid as opposed to like the lower end of mid, like a 5 or a 4. No, I'm feeling a 7 on this. So yeah, 7 out of 10 for me, Last of Us Season 2. I know people completely hate this and they're valid in their opinions and that they have their critiques, whatever, all that stuff. I do see it, but for me, I just love the property so much where it's hard for me to not be biased towards it. And yeah, I see the bigger picture that they're trying to paint with, and right now we only have the small corner, but once we see the entire image, I think it'll be okay. All right, so don't give up hope yet. Don't let the flame die out, all right? So yeah, those are my thoughts on Last of Us Season 2. What did you guys think? Let me know down below. Hate away down there. I'm sure I'm going to get plenty of hate comments saying that they hated this and I'm wrong and go woke, go broke, all that stuff, whatever. I'm prepared for it. So yeah, whatever your thoughts are, let me know down below. Also, if you want to follow us, it's also in the description. Subscribe if you'd like. We appreciate that as well. And yeah, until next time, don't die trying to exact revenge on whatever you're trying to avenge. That's not a good message.